Hey guys, welcome back to Michelle's STEM Journey. I am Michelle and I'm here today with the sixth video in the series called Swift and Xcode. In today's video, we will be exploring some of the basic features in Xcode, such as views and modifiers. So I hope you all enjoyed this video and let's get started. So welcome to video 6 in the series Swift and Xcode, and today we will be learning about Xcode. So don't forget to check out video 1 in the series to see what Xcode is and some of its features. So basically in video 1, I kind of went over what each section of Xcode did, but in today's video, I will actually explain some of the things that you can do in Xcode. So first, let's start with struct. So when we first open Xcode and create a new project, we will see this page pop up. Struct, short for structure, is a powerful and flexible way to define custom data types. Each Swift UI file will start with struct. It basically holds up all of the code that makes up our UI. So in this case, we have struct and then the view, which is content view, equals view. And open curly bracket and then closing curly bracket. So basically this view is called content view, and it is this setup right here is the automatic setup for when you first create a project in Xcode. But of course, in between these curly brackets, we have this VStack with an image, text, and some modifiers. So that is the code that will make up our UI. And then views. A view is a fundamental building block of the user interface. Views are responsible for displaying content and handling user interactions. In Xcode, views are used to create and manage the visual elements of your app's user interface. It includes all the text, buttons, images, and etc. The only requirement is that it must have a body that returns some view. So we have this is called var body colon and then some view and then another curly bracket and then and closing curly bracket. So a view can be made up of other views and it can have many subviews itself. And then a modifier is a method that you can call on a view to change its appearance or behavior. Modifiers allow you to customize views in a declarative manner. Okay, so let's talk about stacks. A stack is a fundamental layout container that allows you to arrange views in a specific order. You can add stacks by simply typing out whatever type of stack you want, or you can drag it from the library. And so what I mean by this is we can go to Xcode. I'm just going to click on this project called example 1. So I have done nothing to this yet, but we can run the preview real quick. And this is what we have so far. But we can delete this. So from padding to the VStack, we can delete this. And it will give us some errors, but that is because we don't have any code in right now, so don't worry. But to go to the library, we can click this plus button up here, and then I am going to add a VStack. So VStack, we can type that out, and then I'm just going to use the original just vertical stack, and I'm going to add that in between. So all the errors went away, and so this is what we are left with right now. But let's learn about VStacks. So vertical stacks arrange its child views in a vertical line from top to bottom. And here we have this. So we have VStack and then we have two images. And you see here that the images are arranged from top to bottom. So everything is aligned vertically, and then we have some modifiers. So in this case, I used two images, and we can actually go try that out right now. Okay, so we're back in Xcode, and I have a VStack that I added earlier, and then the content here, we can delete that. So once we double click it, it will go away, so we can add our own code. And so in this case, I am going to add the two images that you guys saw in the previous example. And if we want to add an image, we first must upload what image we want into Xcode. So clicking over here, I'm going to go here to assets. And then The shortcut that I always use is on your keyboard, click Command and then the spacebar. And then this will pop up. And then we can type in the image. So this image right here, I already downloaded it and I caught it in my Finder, like in my Finder on my computer. It's called Q_cat, so you have to type in that exact name. So it's kind of picky here because it will not pop up. But then once you find it here, you click and drag it, and then you let it go. And then we have that image. And then I have another image called cute puppy, and then click and drag to this side. And then we have two images stored in Xcode. And so if we go back to the content view, I'm going to add an image. And by adding an image, you can simply just type out image. You can put open parentheses and then the name with double quotes. So cute cat. And the syntax must be the exact same. And also keep in mind that don't rush to fix the errors that might pop up, because when I just typed in image, it will give like an error. See, it says like fail to build content view, and Xcode is kind of like this. It gives all kinds of errors when you're in the middle of typing something, so don't get frustrated with that. But the syntax here is that you can type out image and then parentheses, double quotes, and then put the name of your image. Or you can also go here and you can type out image and then you can drag an image down as well. But by dragging it from the library, there is one perk, is that it kind of gives you an example of what to expect when you use whatever you dragged in. So for example, if you did not know that once you type that image you had to use double quotes and then put the name of the image, you can always drag it from the library and it tells you that you need double quotes and then image name. And then double click that. We can change it to cute puppy. Okay, so right now you see that you really can't see anything in the preview, and that is because we need to adjust things a little. So we can either, as I said, you can either type it out, or we could click on whatever we want to change. You see it's kind of like highlighted here. I want to change the image cute cat, and then we could go up over here to this icon, click it, and then it'll take a second to load. That we have all kinds of modifiers that we can add. So I'm going to go to style here and I'm going to add, well, I will resize it first. So we could either use resizing mode with stretch, and then aspect ratio we could put fit. And so it kind of just stretches it out and then it fits it to the image. Or you don't have to use stretch, you could just use dot resizable and then without any parameters in, and it still works. It just resizes it. So, and then aspect ratio, this is a modifier that helps like maintain the width to height ratio of the view when fitting it within the containing frame. So you could either fill it up or you could fit it. And then lastly, I'm going to add a corner radius. So if you clicked over here on this button and it popped up all of these different modifiers, it's not all of the modifiers. There's so many different things that you could add to your image or text. This is kind of just the basic. So I'm going to add another. I'm going to toggle that real quick. So I'm going to add corner radius. So put a dot and then corner, and then a radius with an uppercase R, and then I'm going to put parentheses with 15. So if you see here, it instantly changed into rounded corners. And so these are all modifiers. They all begin with a period, and then it just adjusts whatever thing that you want to adjust. In this case, I wanted to adjust this image, and we can do the same thing with the puppy image. Okay, and this is what we are left with. You can definitely play with it around as much as you want. And so see, this is what I was just explaining, the resizable, aspect ratio, and corner radius modifiers. And then let's look at H stacks. So horizontal stacks allows you to arrange the child view horizontally from left to right. So if you see in this example, we used H stack, and the content in it is the exact same as V stack, except using an H stack, it arranges it side by side. And then Z stacks. So Z stacks arrange child views by layering them on top of each other. So it's also known as depth stack. And so in this example here, if you see, we used a Z stack, and then I changed the background color to yellow with color.yellow, and then ignore safe area. That means that it covers the whole phone screen. And then I added a circle on top of it with a frame and then some text. So all of these are layered on top of each other, and so that is what Z stacks are used for. And also keep in mind that you can add an H stack under a V stack anytime you want. So for example, under the images, under these two images within the V stack, you can add an H stack, and it will add a horizontal layout beneath it. But please keep in mind of the open and curly brackets. That is one of the most common errors found, and I've dealt with so many of those errors because once you start writing a lot of code, you'll see that there are so many open and curly brackets that you need to make sure each one of them is closed. And then spacer is a modifier that pushes child views to the edges of the stack view. You can add them before, middle, or after the child view. So if we see here, I added an H stack with the text left and right. And we see that there is really no space in between them, right? But we can add a spacer in between the text, left and right, and it added the space in between the words left and right. And if you think that this is too far apart, you can definitely go into the spacer and you can add a parameter. So in between these parentheses, you could put min length equals to whatever you can set it, for example, 100, 50, whatever, and it kind of adjusts. And you can also put the spacer on top of the text. So for example, spacer first and then text left, text right, and it will add a space on this side and then the text left and right pushed together onto the right side. And then padding. So if you notice in the previous example, the words left and right were pushed so far apart that it touches the edges of the screen. We want to move the views away from the edges of the stimulator. We can add a padding modifier. So you can think of it as a cushion. And so this is an example here. So I added a spacer, and below the text, I added the padding modifier. And so the padding, it kind of just leaves a space off from the edges of the screen so the view overall looks better. And then you can also, just like spacer, you can add a parameter inside padding. So for example, I added 60 and it pushed it even together. So these you can all adjust. You can add 100 and it will push it even more closer. But this you can really play around with. And that's kind of why Xcode is really just user-friendly, because you can code it however you want based off of however you like it. Okay, and then let's go to Xcode really quickly. And then I am going to add a spacer in between these two images to add a space. And then I'm going to add a padding underneath each image to make it. And you see here, the images adjusts, and it's kind of leaving a space between the edges and the image. So that would be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something about Xcode. And don't forget to come back to part 2 in next week's video to learn more about Xcode. For example, we can learn about interactive UIs and how to add buttons.